Hey friends, welcome back. Happy Monday to everyone out there. Hope you all are doing good. Hey, in this video, I'd like to talk a little bit how I look at using overdrive pedals and these things, right? So these are broad strokes here. I know everybody has different likes and dislikes on how they like to use their gear. I'm just saying this is what has worked for me, or what's currently working for me at this point. Just overview here, I tend to look at overdrives more as little tone shaping boxes versus like overdrive or even distortion, unless you're really going for that sound. So I tend to think of them more as like basically glorified boost pedals, if that makes sense. If I'm just given any old overdrive box and a tube amp, what am I going to do with it? So typically, where I would start, I would start with a drive, pretty low. This is an ODR1 rehoused by XTS, by the way. Great company here in Nashville. Love those guys. Hey to everyone over there. So I generally keep the drive lower, like maybe 9, 10 o'clock kind of a thing. And then I'm hitting the front end harder with the level control here. So what I'm looking to do is overdrive the preamp section of the tube amp. And what that gives you, at least in my experience, is more note definition, a little more clarity, but you're still getting the character of the pedal when you kind of get in this range. So it's really kind of a beautiful little hybrid is what I'm looking for, of like getting some of the magic of the pedal, but relying on the overall output and the boosting capabilities of the pedal into the tube amp to kind of create this marriage between the two. So I've set up my amp here today. I'm actually using a King of Tone on the yellow side. And this is kind of a basic kind of Fender type breakup tone, or this would be my clean tone. So you can tell it's not completely clean, right? Like if I back off, if I go real light on my right hand, it's pretty clean. And then if I start digging in, then I can get a little bit of a little bit of breakup out of the amp. So there's nothing on right now. This is completely no pedals or anything. So that's my starting point, and I feel like a large percentage of my tone is actually that, right? I mean, I could add some effects to this and be pretty good, pretty happy. But if I want to go a step beyond, then let me hit this yellow side of the King of Tone. And off, on. So I've got the volume pretty much maxed out. The King of Tone doesn't have as much output level as some other pedals out there, but I chose this because of you can hear the difference in the tone. Just the coloration it puts on the tone is nice. Right, you hear a little more low mid, frequency range boost in it, and it just feels a little more full. Then, right, so I've got the drive on the pedal at about, I'd say 10 o'clock, roughly. And the tone is just past noon, maybe around 1 o'clock or so. So I feel like this is a good example of like utilizing the color of the pedal, but hitting the front end of the amp pretty hard. And what I've found is that with certain pedals, like I used to have a Timmy on my board back in the day. Great pedal. I still use it on occasion. But I always struggled. There was like a sweet spot of that pedal that I feel like when I overshot it, it started sounding too transistor, almost like too grainy or kind of transistory to my ears. So it was always a struggle to get that balance right for some reason for me. And maybe I didn't even really understand. I didn't have a great understanding of what that was back then. But now I know. Okay, I was overshooting. I was going too high on the drive. I was overshooting the sweet spot, and it started to sound more pedal-like. I think I know Tom Bukovac talks about that a lot. Like he loves pedals that don't sound like pedals. And I think that's why, the ODR ones. There's a few other ones out there. The Lightspeed, just pedals that feel pretty natural when you engage them. They don't sound that. They don't have that transistor kind of thing. But I feel like even the Lightspeed, like for me, as cool as that pedal is, I've got to be really careful with it because it can get into that kind of grainy phase, at least for me. These are just some thoughts. I would love to hear from you guys on like kind of what you found works for you too, and what pedals you guys are into right now. I know there's so much on the market. So the cool thing, I think, to go back a step, when you overdrive, when you hit the front end of the amp hard, to my ears, it's a real pleasing type harmonically rich overdrive that happens because you're literally breaking up the preamp tubes of the amp. You're pushing them into a harmonic, distortion. So, you're gonna get more note clarity. You're gonna have more dynamic capabilities as well. Oftentimes, when you're using the gain knob, let's just say up in here and beyond, you start losing dynamics in your right hand. So things are just more compressed and less expressive, I would say. So another great reason to keep things down here is you can when you want to dig in with your right hand, you have the bloom um, that kicks in. So versus being up here and you're completely, you're squashing everything. So yeah, I personally love hearing every note in the chord. I want to hear that clarity. And for me, like when I have that as a baseline, then everything that comes on top of that is just like cherry on top, like as far as delays and verbs, when I'm able to put those things on a tone that has good fidelity, good clarity, good note separation, then you can doctor it up with these other things, and you're going to get kind of an even better situation on your hands. You're going to have a beautiful tone, and so yeah, I feel like it just sort of everything starts there for me, and maybe you guys have found that as well. But yeah, I would love to hear some comments from you guys. And again, these are kind of broad strokes. This is just kind of how I think about kind of setting up a baseline tone for myself. I'll just mention too, like there's so many variables here, but my guitar the volume is on 10. I backed off the treble a little bit, but and with Fender style amps, to go to the amp deal here for a second, I've found that anything above like 3.5 in the 4 range is kind of a good starting point for me. There's a great little Princeton reverb at a church that I play at on occasion, and I just set the volume at about 4 on the dial, and then that allows me to kind of do what I need to do with hitting the front end with these pedals. Some other, I guess some other great options for a couple other notable mentions for these style pedals for me at least. I like the RC Boost a lot. It's I guess it's an older pedal now that was made or is still made by Exotic Effects, and also like the Amp 11 by Love Pedal a good bit. I already mentioned Lightspeed, Nobles, King of Tone. I would say those are probably my go-tos just across the different boards that I have. And honestly, it's what I see show up most of the time in the studio too. If I'm working with another guitar player, they're generally going to have some type of, they're going to have one of those on their board, and maybe more than one of those on their board. So these are pedals that work, but we all know what everyone's using at this point, but the purpose of this video is just to say, how are we using it, and keeping the gain low, output high, for better note separation and clarity in the chords and in the single note lines and stuff. For me, has been is pleasing to me at least. So anyway, hey, thanks for hanging out with me on this video here today. And if you have questions or comments about maybe something I didn't cover, or you'd like me to elaborate a little further on some more specifics, please let me know. And definitely subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be putting out more content, and I want you guys along for the journey. So love to hear from you and yeah, be together on this. So, hey, thanks again, and have a great day. I'll talk to you later. See you in the next one.